Welcome to Integrated Insights with ICCG. For more than 30 years, our team has partnered with small business owners to prepare for and navigate the business transaction process. Pull up a chair as we share stories and insights from our experience on all sides of the M&A table.
All right. Well, we are excited to kick this off. Yeah, we're excited to kick this off, and so we've got currently. My name is Andrew, and I'll be your host today, along with Michael Hefner. We've got Michael Hefner here, and then we've got the two principals of ICCG, Dave and Grant. All right, y'all ready? Y'all ready to start up this podcast?
Born ready.
Here we go. All right. Well, hey.
Now that we know what a podcast is, right, Grant? Now we're ready.
Okay, perfect. Well, I know this has been a little bit a long time coming. We've recorded videos. We've done several things, but we're excited to do a little bit more of a free flow. I know we've talked about banter and all that kind of stuff, but today we've got an exciting episode coming up because we are going to go over some things like Dave and Grant, your backgrounds, and just kind of how you met and your partnerships, and we'll expand on some things, tell some stories. But let's go ahead and start there. Dave, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? What's your background before you met Grant, and then we'll kick it over to Grant.
Hang on, Dave. You had a background before. Do I need to know something here?
It's BG.
Okay.
Before Grant.
Okay.
Before Grant.
Yeah.
In the beginning, there was Dave and Grant.
Exactly. It seems like that long ago. So we're in a really unique situation that Grant and I have been business partners. We've known each other since 1993, I believe, 30 years. And then, and we've been doing business in some form or fashion since then. I had got a business degree from Abilene Christian University, found myself in youth ministry, and then we'd been in Dallas, but had always been an entrepreneur as well. And so I'd always been starting and stopping little businesses along the way. And anyways, we were in Dallas and we'd opened up a coffee store, which turned into about a chain of 5. This is pre Starbucks coming to town, and coming from the Seattle area down to Dallas, we knew what was going to happen. So we opened up the first Seattle style espresso bar in Plano, Texas, and for several reasons, which I will not go into until we start talking about bad partnerships. Not with Grant. I needed an accountant quick, and this back in the days where you actually did payroll with paper and pen, and you got this little newspaper type booklet, and you had to figure out everyone's payroll. And I almost dropped out of business school because of accounting. I mean, I just couldn't quite. And so I talked to a guy at church. I said, "Hey, do you know of anyone who can bail me out?" And
I mean, I've been with working with you guys for 6 or 7 years now, and to think about you doing some accounting, it's just more comical in my mind.
Wow, that's not banter. That's disrespect. There,
okay. Subordination always ends one way or another. So, insubordination, I mean.
The bottom line is I ended up doing payroll for a cup of coffee
for a long time. So I asked somebody, "Hey, do you know of anybody?" They said, "Yeah, someone who's just left this big firm. They've started their own business. I've known this guy. We've done camps together, also sports camps and stuff. Go see him." I walked in. I'm like, "Look, I got payroll this Friday. I don't even know what I'm doing. Can you help me?" And he said, "Yeah." I won't put words in your mouth, but basically, I'm starving too. I've just started my firm. I'm a one-man show, and let's go.
So hold on, is that a real thing that you did his accounting for a cup of coffee?
No, the first payroll, that's what I got paid. I got paid a cup of coffee, but it was an amazing cup of coffee. He made this drink.
Was it just normal black coffee or is this anything special?
No, it was something called a razzmatazz. I mean, it was phenomenal. And
what's a razzmatazz, Dave?
Basically it's a chocolate raspberry mocha. with 4 shots. We put 4 shots in it. It was like, so keep them going. We had to keep our accountant going. I mean, so
and a bag of chocolate covered coffee beans. I mean, I didn't have to sleep for days.
Talk about
it was
all-nighters.
You couldn't.
So, anyways, we kind of started that way, and then through the years, he helped us get a bookkeeper involved, and we started using QuickBooks. We grew 5 locations. He helped us with the transaction too. This is probably our first transaction we did together. We were unloading. Selling. Getting rid of or merging these 5 coffee stores, however you want to look at it.
So Grant, were you
Improving them.
were you the M&A advisor on that, I know that you hadn't called yourself an M&A advisor at that point yet, but were you just the CPA? Did you what was your role in that?
Yeah, I think it was, and this will come out later. The main role was friend. And when you're a friend, and when you have this relationship that's built through, first of all, a CPA firm serving its client, but once that friendship developed, you just help each other, right? You just do whatever. And so my knowledge, his knowledge, we just kind of walk through. So I wouldn't call it more an M&A advisor, because I don't know that either one of us knew anywhere close to what we know today about transactions, but we had to figure it out. And it was based in his context, just like the transactions we do today. It's based on a specific context, and it was us trying to figure it out best as we knew. I brought some knowledge to the table. He brought other knowledge to the table, and I don't know that it was. It was just a CPA trying to help his client, but more than that, it was just based on the friendship that we had.
So we go back to this business partnership, Andrew. You got to remember that when I met your dad, she's our.
That's true.
Full
For
disclosure here.
those of you listening, I am.
You were just a glimmer in your mom's eye at that point, and I had one son. You were just barely born, I think, and then by the time we got rid of the coffee stores, I think there was, I don't know, we had one more child. You guys probably, I don't know how many your dad had at that time, but at least one more. And so there was, so it was great. And I think it's also safe to say, as far as the transaction, Grant, if you remember, I had a board member and an early investor in this deal that worked for the Staubach company, and he was just a wealth. He was just a brilliant, he still is a brilliant man, and he was really, really helpful in kind of helping us navigate that. But I don't think either one of us would have looked at this and gone, wow, this is what we're going to do for the rest of our lives. But where that led was to as Grant grew his CPA firm, I started doing some consulting with them. We ended up opening up a little mortgage business. I learned the mortgage business. We opened up a mortgage business out of his office, and then we just kind of started doing business. But I guess, would you say, Grant, that was pretty much the early days?
Yeah, I think, I think most people regard both Dave and I as entrepreneurs, but the reality of it is that a true entrepreneur, Dave is your consummate entrepreneur. I'm more of, the financial accounting kind of thinking brainstormer behind that, but he was always looking for opportunities. The mortgage business was the first one that came up. Dave learned the mortgage business, and my clients were great. From a standpoint of offering them a solution as I did their tax return. This is my little entrepreneurial bent, is rather than just doing a tax return, I'm looking at the interest that they're reporting, and rather than just putting it down as a deduction, I'm calculating, okay, well, this is a higher interest rate. That's what's available. And so here's an opportunity to help people by lowering the interest rate. And so that's kind of my little part of the entrepreneurship. And then we just started looking at opportunities that we thought would help us grow, financially. I think selling hours is really, really difficult as a CPA. to get ahead, because you're just contingent on doing work, finding work, and there's a limitation there. And we just thought, I started doing some succession planning, some estate planning, and do all the work, and I'd sit down with the life insurance salesman and the lawyer, and I'd orchestrated the whole thing. But as an accountant, these lawyers and life insurance people were making more money than I was, and so it just didn't make any sense. And so we were brainstorming. Dave and I were brainstorming. Okay, what are the business opportunities out there? And that's how we started. I sold the CPA firm, and Dave and I formed ICCG, the Integrated Corporate Consulting Group. At that point, ICCG Capital was just a mortgage company at the time, and then we looked at our first opportunity to buy a business, which was actually a client of my CPA firm. So, but the entrepreneurship.
So on that real quick, did you guys? So let's talk about that brainstorming, or that, looking kind of being on the lookout for opportunities, right? So were you guys brainstorming? Okay, what do we like? What do we not like? I know when we talk about or with people that want to buy a business, we kind of label it as framing the box, right? And it's essentially just kind of creating their criteria and figuring out what they like, what they don't like, more so their roles as well, financial capability, all those kind of questions. And so what is that brainstorming, looking at different opportunities? How many opportunities did you guys look at together? What did it look like leading up to that one first purchase?
I'm not sure we thought that. We kind of flew by the seat of our pants on this, Andrew, a little bit. Let me explain kind of what. So when Michael did the introduction, I had not heard that introduction. I got a big smile on my face because I think it started out with something like integrative what? What did you say that, Michael?
Integrated insights.
Integrated insights, and I laugh because we started with integrated. We've got the best short name. We got the worst long name for a company. ICCG, because none of us can remember it's Integrative Corporate Consulting Group. When the reason that started was we had this idea of bringing in all these different professionals that we'd worked with before under one roof, and ended up it was just kind of me and Grant, because maybe the other professionals didn't want to work with us. I think we're having the reality was that was a lot of them included like insurance and things like that, which had licensing that we couldn't quite get around how to figure it out. So, but with that, we built a network of people. And we had Grant came one day and said, look, I'm going to have to sell the company. I'm going to have to be out of my company in order for us to buy a company. I've got an opportunity to buy one of my clients' companies, and he's willing to sell or finance a lot of it. We had to go raise money for part of it. And if I did this, I would need to pretty much sell my accounting firm to my partner, and then finish my stuff there, and then we would take this on. We would also do the mortgage business. So we kind of had that starting off, and then we ended up consolidating. That was a towing service. In fact, I had a guy call me the other day and said, "Hey, what's the towing service that you own?" I said, "Oh, that's been a long time ago, like 15 years ago." But we were kind of known for that. But we consolidated a lot of the Dallas market in that area, and then and so that was pretty much how we started, right, Grant? With 1997?
I think to answer your question, Andrew, I think this is something that has only recently sort of been talked about as a way to find businesses. I think opportunities are in front of us all the time. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you need to get 20 opportunities, look at them." And I just think there's opportunities all the time. I mean, we were presented with an opportunity, and I think part of being successful in business is just being inquisitive rather than intentional. And I know that's kind of weird, but there's a lot of people who get fixated at looking at a ton of opportunities. And I would say it's so much better to be inquisitive, and then the good opportunities sort of are filtered by by just getting to know what they are. This opportunity came to us because of a relationship that we had or that I had from the CPA firm days. And it was, the reason why we thought it was a good opportunity was not, it didn't end up being the reason that we were successful in that business. We really thought that we could go in, buy this company, and live on the cash flow from it. And it just didn't pan out that way. We had to dive in.
Does it ever pan out that way?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that, there's a whole industry called private equity that people do a great job of buying companies, and then it's not mailbox money, but it generates an income, and it gives you a return on your investment and all those fine words. But when you're talking about small and medium-sized businesses, and you go in and you invest in those businesses, it generally requires you to go and use your expertise, your sweat, and there's a reason why they call it work. And I think people have this romantic view of private equity that because of all of the guys in suits and all those kinds of things, just use money to make a success out of a part of their portfolio. Dave and I didn't have that luxury. We had to make every opportunity work or not damage us a whole lot. There's a reason why Dave's and my partnership worked. And I mean, there's multiple reasons, but on the business side of that relationship, we really have different strengths, and we rely on each other's strengths. In other words, it's not that we don't question each other. It's not that we don't help each other in each other's sort of area of expertise, but we trust each other in that area of expertise. And so when partners start looking over their shoulders or doubting the input or the utility of that partnership, that's when you get really sideways. And if you don't deal with it quickly, then you lose the advantage of what each party brings to the table. And the reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of people look for partnerships for different reasons than we did our partnership. Our partnership really started as a friendship. And it's like, hey, this would be fun. Our families are friends. Our wives are friends. This will be a blast to go after and be with and do with, rather than doing this as sort of a scientific way. Or even today, if you look, we've got a video on this. But people add partners because they need capital. They add partners because they need a certain expertise and they can't afford the salary, so they give them a little equity. There's so many reasons why people add partnerships, and there's a risk to that, and it's just really dangerous to think that you can grow the friendship or grow the respect or it's just hard. We were just very fortunate because of our friendship, because our commonly held beliefs. We were able to weather storms and be a fan of each other at the end of the day, which really helps you as you navigate things together. Well, none of us thought that we knew that we were, all that without the other one. And so, yeah, partnerships are important. They're tough, but starting as a friend is so much easier.
I think that's really, really important. And I think that the whole thing about sometimes people out of desperation bring in partners, and we've always been, one thing we always tell our clients is guard the equity, because once you start getting everyone in the cap table, or once you start getting more and more equity, which can be a really good thing, but it can also, you can lose control very quickly. And so, and then you lose vision for what you wanted the company to be to begin with. And I think we did start, look, neither one of us brought a lot of capital for sure. that day. I mean, we were, it was bootstrap and everything, but we learned, and I think that's one reason we get so creative with our sellers of businesses these days, and the buyers of businesses. Let's get creative because, we get it. We know what it's like to. I think we've owned probably 15 companies through the years, and 12 to 15 somewhere along in there. And I think that it's just really good that that who you're in partnership with is just super important. And we've got several of our videos on our website that we talk about our partnership, a little more detail with some of this that you might be worth checking out for some people.
When I tell people that, we get creative and all that kind of stuff, this is on the heels of me also saying that we have, a guy in the office, a CPA, and all, like, wait, hold on, a bean counter is creative? That doesn't make sense. You're not real,
That might be where I come in, but focus, but we won't go into that detail at all. Actually, Grant can be he can be very creative, especially from a financing and tax standpoint, because you have to be their tax laws are there for a reason. It's not to evade them. It's to use them. And, if you use them to make it advantageous for the client, that can be a win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the other thing to note is that we did add partners in our different businesses because we didn't know what we're doing in some of the industries we got into, and so we know when we've made mistakes and we know when we've succeeded. I mean, one of our closest confidants right now is a partner, or was a partner in one of our operating entities, and it became a friendship, but we needed somebody on the same side of the table. So I'm not saying you don't start partnerships based on utility, but our particular one had a great start because of our friendship.
That's awesome. Hey, Grant, rewinding a little bit, you mentioned the importance of being inquisitive and then also recognizing whenever there's an opportunity. And you talked about that first deal a little bit, but can you give a little bit more of the story behind what happened there and how that interaction played out and how you guys ended up eventually buying that business?
Yeah, I tell this story when I get asked to talk to younger people. I tell the story, how many people
who's
know,
asking you that?
Yeah, exactly. And Michael, with your background, you know more about this than I do, but there's a reason why milk and bread is on opposite corners of the grocery store. And that is that they want to keep you in the store, and they know that those are the two most commonly bought items. And so just opening up your eyes and looking at things rather than just drawing dark lines, and understanding what other people get to do for a living and those kinds of things. That's what kind of happened with both Dave and I. Is we're just interested in people and what they do and how they do things. And I think growing that attribute in your life, opens up your mind to opportunities around you. The first opportunity was the mortgage company. There was an opportunity in that industry at that time. Interest rates were going lower. The second opportunity was a client of mine who I had helped for many years, and I thought I knew the business. Dave and I started talking about that possibility. The client wanted me to buy the business, and because he was an older gentleman ready to retire, and he really thought, good or bad, and you guys don't have to laugh, but he really thought that I would be a good steward of the business, a good for the, people ultimately care about their employees, their customers, and their reputation. That's what sellers care about. And so when they find a buyer that will care about those three things, then they will gravitate to that buyer. And so just knowing that, and I think Dave and I end up being, I think, trustworthy. That's kind of one of our main values. And he knew that he could trust us to take the company and take care of those three things. And I believe we did. We didn't really know exactly what we were going into. We thought we did, though, when we did. And it just required a lot more work than what we had intended on.
And I think we had to keep we brought in his general manager as one of our partners in that one of the best decisions we've ever made. And that guy today is still just a wonderful friend. As Grant mentioned him earlier, just a good confidant. And but we had to learn the business, and he did. I mean, he had to learn to trust us because we were coming into a very blue collar business that neither one of us were that.
Yeah, isn't he also a master? He's a master electrician, isn't he? Because I think he came over. I mean, this is just to show how good of a friend he is. I was having issue. We were having our first baby, and this is a few years ago, and I was having electric issue. It was right before we were going to go to the hospital, and he was in town, and I said, hey, can you help me out, please? And so he came over, just fixed it real quick, and just to the trust and the level of trust, I think that was really, really great to I thank him for that for sure. So.
Well, the crazy thing about it is that opportunity, we ended up buying 2 more companies in the same industry that same year. So we made our first purchase in February, and by the end of the year, we now had 3 companies. And integrating those companies was just such a great lesson. And we used some of those lessons that we learned in that particular first year. I don't know that we knew. I know we didn't know. We didn't know then what we know now, but we learned so much while doing. And there's some really funny stories. I mean, that's a crazy industry to dive into, and we loved the people. We loved it. It was a tumultuous time, and it was a great number of years that we dived into that industry. But that first year was crazy.
Knowing you two and kind of envisioning you two in the towing industry, it doesn't make sense. So I know we'll probably dive into that in another episode.
You're talking about out of comfort zone. We're way out of comfort zone. I almost had to carry oxygen to walk in. I was like, I wasn't sure what to do. I mean, the guy was like, what are you doing? He says, when we're buying the company, he says, what do you do when someone needs, he pulls out a baseball bat. He says, well, if they're not going to pay, or here's the baseball bat. I'm like, what?
Collection department.
A little different.
That's right.
Let's just say we brought a much gentler, kindler management approach to the business. It would be really funny to talk about funny. Maybe we ought to do one of these and talk about funny stories from the towing industry and have a couple of these guys on with us, Grant. That'd be a really fun video.
Yeah, every business, and so what we learned, is, and again, I mean, I love that. I love the people, and Dave does too. I think every business has a culture inside of it, and rather than when you buy a business, going in there and completely, changing the culture. I think it's so important to learn that culture first. And yes, you will make changes. You will want to make changes, I'm sure, because you want to put your values and your personality in there. But appreciating people and appreciating the culture around it is so important.
Well, I think one of the things you touched on even a little earlier was the trust, and I think that and again the 6-7 years that I've been working with you guys, obviously I've known you my whole life. So, but just we really harp on that trust with our clients, and the trust has to be between a buyer and a seller. It has to be between the intermediary, and the client, and trust is one of the key things in a transaction. And so I know that we'll probably continuously go back to that point in every episode that we'll record here. But I think that's what we got time for today. We're excited to kick this off. Hey, first episode in the books. What do y'all think? All right, we got an
I feel
applause.
naked.
Okay.
I feel a little naked.
I feel like a baseball bat would be helpful right now.
There you go. There you go. Well, thanks for joining us today. We'll excited to see you guys next time.
And that wraps up another episode of Integrated Insights with ICCG. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories from our team. We love hearing from our listeners. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please send us an email in the show notes. For more information about ICCG, please check us out on our website or follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Until next time, there's always a seat at our table.